Alright, trig review. I know I touched a little bit on this last time, but trig review, you just want to be able to do your calculations and be able to work with it. I'll show you a method for working with the unit circle. Okay, so if we take a look at the unit circle and we just look at the first quadrant, this was actually shown to me by, ugh, that's an ugly circle. If we just take a look at the first quadrant and we split it up into several pieces, okay, you can actually come up with some quick calculations and stuff. Okay, so let's say this was 0 degrees, this was 30, this was 45, this was 60, and this was 90. And then you also have to pay attention to, when working with this, you have to pay attention to the 4 quadrant rules in trig, which were A, smart, trig, class, or depending on what teacher taught you, all students take calculus. Okay, and you also need to remember your conversions. So this is 0 radians, and here I'll put the radians in different colors. Zero. This is pi divided by 6. Oh, geez, let's get that uncapitalized. Pi 6. This is pi fourths. This is pi thirds. And this one's going to be pi halves. Okay, so if we pay attention to that, that should make our job a lot easier. And this is 0 pi, obviously. In radians, those conversions. And just remember, to go from degrees to radians, you multiply by pi over 180, and to go from radians to degrees, you multiply by 180 over pi. Okay, so I'm going to treat this as, and I'm going to get a different color set here. Let's go parentheses, cosine of theta, and I'll just use x in this case. Cosine of x. Okay, that will be in green, so that will be that. Now here's a cool little rule for memorizing the trig ratios as we go. Okay, now cosine of 0 is going to be 1. Okay, and up here, cosine of 90 is going to be 0. So that's my x's right there. Okay, so as I go up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up in a fashion a little bit interesting. I'm going to, if I start down here and I treat this as the square root of 4 divided by 4, okay, and then work my way up, all right, I get 1 if I simplify it. Now for this one, I would do the square root of 3 divided by 4. Okay, and that would get me this coordinate as root 3 divided by 2. Okay, and then on this one, this is just a cool trick. Square root of parentheses 2 divided by 4, and then I simplify it, I would get parentheses root 2 divided by 2. Okay, and then if I did the same thing here, but I kept my fashion of square root of 1 divided by 4, okay, I would get the square root of, no, not square root, because square root of 1 over 4 is just 1/2. And so that would get me 1/2. And then obviously this one up here would be the square root of 0 divided by 4. Okay, which just turns into 0. Now that's awesome because that helps out in just getting the entire thing filled up for cosine. So that just works our way up there. Now for sine, it's going to be the exact opposite type of direction. So I'm going to do a different color. So let's do purple. I like purple. Come on. There we go. Okay, so sine is going to be y. Okay, Now, if you remember your simple calculations, it's going to be 0 down here, and it's going to be 1 up here. It's going to, if you remember, cosine and sine are complements of each other, so as one's going up, the other one's going down. So this one is starting out at square root of 0 divided by 4, and it's going to count up. And so this one becomes 1/2. This one becomes root 2 divided by 2. This one becomes root 3 divided by 2. And this one becomes 1. And so as you, so basically this one right here, this would be the square root of 1 divided by 4. This one would be the square root of 2 divided by 4. This one would be the square root of 3 divided by 4. And this one would be the square root of 4 divided by 4. Okay, and as you can see that pattern, you just work that way. Now, tangent is just going to be just a pain in the butt to do because you just have to do it a certain way. And tangent is going to be equal to sine divided by cosine. So whatever sine is, just divide it by cosine, and you got tangent. Okay, now obviously cosecant, secant, and cotangent are reciprocals. So as long as you remember that, your trig ratio should be good. But if you memorize this one section, you should be okay. Now, if my angle ends in one of these categories, I can add negative or positive signs to it and then just work accordingly. So this is just the first quadrant. So what if I have an angle that ends in the third quadrant and it's sine? So let's say it was sine of 210. Okay, what is that? Well, it's in the third quadrant, so a smart trig class, that's the only that's one of the two quadrants where sine is negative, so I know it's going to be negative. Okay, then I'm going to use the reference angle with the x-axis to find out what it is. So the reference angle between 210 and the x-axis is going to be 30 degrees. Okay, so I'm going to go down here to sine at 30. I'm going to notice it's at 1/2. So sine of 210 is going to equal negative 1/2. And if I go to my calculator to confirm this, let's go blank calculator. There we go. Oh, and I have to make sure my graph is in degrees. There we go. So sine of 210 is negative 1/2. Okay, I would recommend using your calculator just to calculate it real fast, but if you want to do it in your head on the AP test, you know, please do so. But on your calculator, make sure it's in degrees. Now, if we wanted to do radians, we would have to switch our calculator to radians, and we would do sine of 7 pi divided by, oh, so I need to put some space between these two, divided by 6. And it would equal negative 1/2. Okay? Alright, let me see. We already talked about even and odd trig functions, transformations of trig graphs. We've already talked about that stuff, but I just wanted to cover the unit circle and just show you guys. Another thing to do with the unit circle is you could just straight up memorize it and just go across and just use it. But honestly, if you use a calculator, it's not the end of the world. But I would recommend using this method. It's fast, it's easy. It's actually faster than using calculator, because calculator you have to remember if your radians or degrees and just go from there. Okay. Alright guys, that's it for today. Good luck on the Unit 1 test, and I will talk to you later. Bye.